Hey Renee,
Hi, Annette.
how you doing?
Good, thank you.
Today we're going to talk about self-esteem, which is a huge subject, but we're just going to talk a little bit about it. I know, I know, it's a big, and we could do, like you talked about before, a class on it, a whole day class, and maybe we will one day. Maybe we will one day. But today is just talking about how to improve some self-esteem, and these are some steps you could take.
Great. That's a big good. Yes.
One of them is to write out all your negative beliefs that you have about yourself. That would include also your positives, but it's easier to start on the negatives, I find, with most people, unfortunately. But I want both. Usually those negatives, that list will be a lot longer, and it will take you time to come up with more positives in there.
Well, those who struggle with self-esteem, shoot, that's always right at the tip of your tongue. That's right there. That's in the Rolodex. Like, which one you want? So it's easy to grab a negative versus a positive, for sure.
When I work with somebody, I have them, I say, anything that you're thinking towards yourself, negative or positive, I'd like you to list. 2 separate lists, make them out. And I don't have it be 2 separate columns because, like I said, the negatives go on for quite a long time usually.
True.
So
I remember when no one actually had, excuse me, no one had actually suggested this, but I found going into college, I really had poor self-esteem and was noticing that bashing around that time, and just decided to get with a girlfriend because she and I were kind of similar in that. And we decided, instead of writing the negatives, because like we could spew it out at that time, we just wanted to write the positive. And it was a struggle at first to even come up with a positive. That's how bad we were, stuck in that negative mode of, well, who's really going to think of us any good? And how do we even think about ourselves of any good, you know? And would we be lying if we put something down? But it was a great opportunity to do that with a friend and write it down. And we filled up pages of these little index cards, you know, and till this day, you know, just up until a couple of years ago, before we got rid of everything, I still had that. That was a precious moment to me, to have somebody walk through that with me and to point out, like when each of us got stuck, we were pointing it out to each other. Hey, well, you're this. Hey, you're that.
well, that actually would be my second suggestion, is for a person to ask a family member or a friend to sit down with them and give them some more input on some negative beliefs that they think that I have and the positive that I have as well. So to get both of those down. But again, it needs to be somebody you trust. And it sounds like you trusted that girlfriend to sit down with you.
Yeah, she didn't do any bashing. But I can imagine people being scared to ask someone else, you know, like, oh, what if there's something that comes out of their mouth I'm not going to like, you know, or.
But to pray about it, see who they might be able to sit down and start that baby step of asking.
Huge.
Especially the positives, because we want to build up on that positive side, and that's important. There's a lot of stuff that I may not see, but you would see.
Yeah. I have had someone, I can't remember what the challenge was, but I just remember it being such a struggle to write anything positive for themselves. You know, not finding a scripture, not being able to find anything positive about what would God say about me, or what would I even say good about me. You know, that is definitely a struggle for a lot of people, for sure.
Absolutely.
There was even a study that I'm part of a group of recently, and it's in the book of Habakkuk, and it talked about, one of the things was to do a reflection time and write down the things that the enemy has told you, like the names that the enemy being Satan has identified in you. And the word that from childhood for me was discarded. And that was my word. And when I would describe others who struggled, it would be discardedness, discard, whatever. And when we did this time of reflection, it was, well, what's God have to say is the opposite of it. And I don't know if I've ever done the, the opposite of pressing into Christ and seeing what he had to say. But what he did have to say was, he keeps me close to him. And that's a total opposite to what discarded is.
Right. Absolutely.
Yes, I dealt with discarded years ago, but to find the identity, the positive that trumps that negative, it's huge. Absolutely huge.
It is. Because after you have your list of your negatives, you really need to challenge yourself and go to the Word of God and see what it says about you. And that will help feed your self-esteem, so that when you're feeling you're this, then you're able to pull out the Word of God, just like discarded, because it's not going to be the last time you hear that word and that thought come to mind. Now you could work on yourself going, nope, that's not truth. I'm not discarded.
I am a crown in his hand.
And also, when you're working on the positives, make sure you write down your achievements, because that should go on your positives as well.
Well, when I first heard that, I thought that was a little corny. I'll be honest, because I'm like, well, what about those of us that don't have any? Wasn't the prom queen, wasn't this, wasn't that, all the accolades that others who were like in sports or were part of the in crowd. You know what I mean? So even in that kind of thinking, there was always negative even around that. When somebody had said, put down even the things that you accomplished. At the time, the only thing I could think of was, well, I was the Morp queen. They're like, what's that? Well, it's the opposite of prom. Who could dress up the worst? They would get a prize. But I'm like, but I accomplished that. So I'm writing that on my list. So even that I knew I could do. Look the worst. I could win that one. I knew I wouldn't be the prom queen, but it was an accomplishment because it was fun. And I got an award for it. So that's where I started. And then I realized, oh, there were other things I did. Okay. Won the spelling bee. I did this, whatever. But it was hard to come up with those things when I was first challenged. I'll be honest.
Well, you got to ask others, because sometimes, again, you'll be blind to past accomplishments. I know.
Oh, yeah.
When we moved here, I kept hearing from people, boy, you're creative when it comes to decorating and different things. And I'm thinking, I'm not creative. In the back of my mind, it's like, I'm not creative. But I kept hearing it, and it was like, I must be. If people are seeing the fruit of creativity, why am I saying I'm not creative?
No.
That's just something to beat down my self-esteem. Another item is learn to say no. We had talked about it with boundaries, and that great book from John Townsend of Boundaries. But learning how to say no is a really good start, even to yourself. Boundaries with yourself in saying, no, I'm not going to think that about the word discarded anymore. I'm going to think about how I'm so treasured, how I'm so wanted.
It's no Satan, not today.
Not today.
Some of my friends will be like, not today, Satan. And then they have to rechange it, change that negative to the positive that God's given.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Lining those negatives up with the Word of God is work, but it's worth the investment.
I agree.
It is so worth the investment.
But it is work, because it's not natural for us to hear it come out of ourselves, or to hear it even from God, because the self-esteem thing, we could even be blocking what God says. Like, oh, I can't be true.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right.
It's true for Renee, but it's not true for me. Absolutely. That's just stinking thinking.
Yep. That's that. Yeah. I used to feel that way. Healing and other things. Well, they're worthy of it, but that doesn't come down in my camp. God had to change that. God changed that.
Self-esteem is also within your relationships. So it could be affected by relationships big time. So you know what relationships are working good in your life. Excuse me. And you know what relationships are negative ones. to the point of you need to be able to build up those positive relationships and avoid the negative ones. So if you are a person that came over all the time and was negative, negative, negative with me, and when you left, I just felt like drained,
Yeah.
drained. And it wasn't because you were just so needy. It's just the negative part in you. And I couldn't get you to switch over at all to positives about anything. That might be something you need to start avoiding that relationship some, because you're working on your self-esteem and building yourself up, and staying with those positive relationships is a good way to do that.
And some people don't even see the toxicity because, like you said, it's just they were just draining to you, but they weren't necessarily mean to you, or
Right.
but there's toxicity in that.
Absolutely.
That you have to refill afterwards. Like, well, why?
Well, it reminds me of you sitting with your girlfriend in college, and if you were both sitting there trashing yourselves in front of each other, and she's trashing herself, it's very contagious to do that.
Oh yeah.
Kind of like this tiny little cancer. And you didn't even realize it started there, and it started growing from there. And I'm so glad you guys were able to turn it around. Say, you know, we need to just take time out and flip this around.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other step you could do is be kind. Be kind to yourself. That trash talking could just play in your mind. Those are things that you wouldn't even say to another person, but you're letting your mind say it to yourself. Don't do that. Choose to be kind to yourself. Don't be mean.
It sounds so simple, but just that alone, you know, like if us as a leader is talking to somebody else about working on their self-esteem, and sometimes there's some folks that you can only do a nugget of speaking into them at a time, you know, that moment of sound-mindedness, and you can only do little nuggets. This would be one of those nuggets of drop it in and then let them work on it, because that's a deep one.
And we'll have to do a time where we talk about how to work on your thought process to control negative thoughts coming in, type thing.
Yeah.
But right now, I just want to go with more of just stop and be kind to yourself.
Yep. When that was said to me, that was such a huge lesson. Would you ever say that to your friend? Well, no, because it's not the truth. Well, then why do you say it to yourself? Well, because it's true. Like, no.
No.
But it's a wake-up call, just that one question.
It is. It truly is.
Yeah. That's a big one.
Another is improve your physical health, to make sure you're sleeping the hours that you actually need, that you're eating good food, and thinking. Do it mindfully. Keep scripture in your head continually. Read it daily so that you constantly have good. It's just like eating good food. Keep feeding yourself the word of God, and that's going to fill your mind big time. Have praise music playing in your car or in your house. That is also something that will help fill your mind. But sleeping and eating well is important too. And it helps you to make better decisions when it comes to trash talking yourself or just eating down on your self-esteem, if that makes sense. You're able to catch things easier and say, no, that's not true.
Yes. When you're sharper, yes.
Yeah. Keep feeding yourself spiritually. Maybe join a Bible study. Like you said, you're part of a Bible study. And in that Bible study, God was able to speak through to you. And who would have known it would have been something on your self-esteem? That was an unexpected thing. But to read the Bible daily, talk with God all day long, it's just an ongoing conversation, and write down what you value. I think that's important. If I was to write down what I value, Renee, I would write down, I value my relationships with, and I would write down those relationships. And you'd be one of them, by the way. So it'd be something that I would protect. Does that make sense? That I wouldn't be foolish with.
Right.
And we had talked about it a little before. We always seem to go back to it, but make sure your bucket is at least 3/4 of the way full. It's so hard to fill your bucket once it gets halfway or even lower. And it's so easy to just top it off real quick.
With the self-care is what
with the self-care, getting that sleep, doing the other. For me, it's taking on challenges, going fishing, you name it, putting on happy, upbeat praise music, even if it's not even praise music, upbeat music that I can remember from long ago. That's fun for me. I can remember that time way back then where I was walking with God, just having that fun music playing.
That's cool.
Another is don't compare. We are our hardest critic. So if you say you're creative and I say I'm creative, which is still like, am I? When I see such creative people doing other things, see how I can compare?
Yeah.
Don't compare myself and my creativity. Stick with creativity I have, thank God for it, and just enjoy that.
Right.
And be happy in that.
No matter if it looks very different than another person.
Your daughter-in-law is doing some incredible things with her house and decorating. And
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like, wow, what a gift. I can't compare myself to her, or I'd be so down on myself on how I decorate here. But she is very good at that. Don't ever do the comparing on things like that.
Yeah.
Last, give yourself a break. Give yourself a break. We are our worst critic, Renee.
Yeah, I know. I'll unpack that one. What does giving yourself a break look like?
When a negative thought will come in, I'll say, you know, if I don't know the truth on it, I'll say, wait a minute. Where's that coming from? Is that true? So, and then if it's one of those moments where I just don't have the time to even break it down, I'll go, you're on hold. I'll put it on hold. I'll put the negative thought on hold till I could dive deeper into it, but I'm not going to grab it as truth right away, because that's all I did all my life was grab onto those negatives and believe them as being true. And that was ridiculous.
Very. It is. It's so easy to do. It's
easier than going against looking in the Bible and finding the truth about yourself, Renee.
Yeah. Or just looking at yourself. As simple as a compliment. It was just a conversation I had last week. It's so simple as those of us that have had the low self-esteem, you know, anyone with low self-esteem, they can get a compliment or a gift. And it's like, no, don't deserve it. No, that's not true. Oh, or I'll give compliments to friends and like, yeah, I just washed my hair. That's why I smell good. Or I finally took a shower. I was like, girl.
It's a natural response. I know I've done that before. We'll go, oh, Annette, you look so beautiful today. I go, yeah, it helps to take a shower.
It's like, so second nature or first nature, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Giving the break is so important, though.
Give yourself a break.
Yep. Don't hold on to it.
Don't hold on to it. That's a good way of looking at it. All right. Well, like I said, we just barely touched it, but I'm so glad we were able to even attempt to talk about self-esteem a little bit today. And hopefully it's helped a few people.
Good nuggets. Thank you, Annette.
All right. Take care, Renee.
Bye.